So we left around structuring our directories so it all makes sense. And I just wanted to paint the picture a little bit since this is a Twitter space, we can't share screens. So we have to paint with words as much as we can. And let's say that we have multiple applications and we want to create our libraries for them. So do you think it makes sense to create the specific directories for the applications that we have? Let's say we have 3 applications and we create the same name directories in libraries that are matching the names of our applications and put the specific features or domains inside of them so it's easier to navigate our monorepo, or should we do it any other way?
Well, I personally like that approach, like to have like a relatively tightly coupled folder structure to like the domains and like library types and to applications. So for example, in one of the solutions we were creating, we had something like, we called it like application scope, where like there was a rule with like the scope application and name of that application for those libraries that they can only be used within that application. So, and that kind of also necessitates like to, or it doesn't really necessitate it, but it's really nicer and more intuitive if those libraries are then also stored within a folder which has a name of that application, which might be still stored within like the domain, which might be stored within the business context. And to have automated rules to validate that, to make sure that this doesn't fall out of sync, as people, of course, need to refactor the implementation as the whole thing evolves.
Yeah, same here. One additional thought might be, is your application structure always the structure of your domains? Sometimes that's for sure the case, perhaps even quite often. I have also seen projects where there is a difference between your application structure and your domain structure, where you have several applications that are using features from different domains. And yeah, then it might not align one-to-one. In this case, my folder names are the domain names. Otherwise, the folder names are also the application names if apps and domains align with each other one-to-one.
In those cases, then what we usually opted in to go with was to have like a domain as like this like top level structure, and then like the name of the application as the application scope was then repeated like across those domains if there was like some specific implementation, and if some of it was just like shared, then it was without like grouping in a folder. If it all could have been used like across multiple consumer applications. But there are like infinite, well, not infinite, but many ways to structure this.
Yeah, totally. I think the reference architecture the NX team gives us with types and scopes, I call it types and domains, has 2 dimensions, namely types and domains, types and scopes. In the case we are now talking about, there is a 3rd dimension, namely the application itself. And perhaps there is even a 4th dimension, like the application for the mobile phone, the application for the desktop, and something for both. Yeah, and for sure, if you have more than 2 dimensions, you have a lot of possibility to structure this in a hierarchical folder structure. And perhaps it does not really matter which option you go with, but it's important that you have a consistent structure. So you should have a decision in your team and to make it in a unified way. That's funnily quite often the case. Quite often the decision itself does not matter that much, but you have to agree on something so that it's unified and that you are not lost when you maintain the source code.
Couldn't agree more. It's like the consistency and predictability are extremely valuable in this kind of environment.
Yeah, consistency is totally.
Yeah, and this tells us that we should not follow blindly the practices that we see. We have to customize everything to match our own needs.